Chosen one. Stop scrolling. Yes, you. Don't dismiss this moment. You didn't find this message found you. Heaven has paused everything to speak directly into your spirit. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being positioned for your divine breakthrough. The storm didn't come to destroy you, it came to announce you. Everything you've been through has led to this very second. The pain was preparation. The delay was divine. And what looked like rejection was really redirection. You are not overlooked, you are chosen. And what's coming next will prove that everything you endured had eternal purpose. You've been asking, why has it taken so long? But the truth is, the wait wasn't punishment. It was protection. You couldn't be exposed too early. God was developing your strength in secret. Now the moment has arrived. Now the heavens are moving. And now, divine help is being released specifically for you. This is not just a motivational whisper. This is a divine summons. You've been marked by fire, and whether you realize it or not, the evidence of your calling has already started to rise. You carry a spiritual weight that causes warfare in rooms you haven't even stepped into yet. That's why it's been heavy. That's why your nights have been sleepless. Because heaven is preparing to lift the veil on what was always inside of you. But listen carefully, this moment is critical. You're standing at the edge of a spiritual crossing. What you decide now determines what opens next. The old fear can't come with you. The past pain can't anchor you. The counterfeit distractions can't delay you. Because breakthrough doesn't wait for perfect conditions, it obeys divine timing. Chosen one. You are standing in a divine now moment. And heaven is backing you. The pressure you've carried wasn't pointless. It was producing glory. The loneliness you've endured wasn't punishment, it was protection. God was clearing the noise, so you could hear his voice clearly again. And now, he speaks, I am guiding you. I am helping you. I am with you. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. This fear you've been wrestling with, cast it off. It doesn't belong to you. You weren't born with it. And heaven didn't assign it. That fear is a thief, sent to keep you distracted while your destiny waits. But the spirit within you is one of boldness, clarity, and fierce love. You have everything you need to step into what's next. Heaven's not asking for your perfection. It's demanding your permission. This peace is not the absence of storms, it is the anchor in the middle of them. You've had to smile through pain, laugh through confusion. Keep going when no one checked on you. But still you stayed faithful. Still you prayed. Even when your voice trembled. Even when your hope was running on fumes. You never stopped believing. Even when you questioned everything else. You've cried in silence. You've worshipped through confusion. You've held on when everything screamed for you to quit. But you didn't quit. That's why you're hearing this. Because you didn't let go. And now, the same God who saw your secret endurance is releasing public elevation. You've been hidden long enough. You've been on the backside of the desert long enough. Like David, tending sheep, while others were paraded before the prophet. Your time has come. Heaven is saying, arise. I have seen you. End of it. This word is not coming to inspire you. It's coming to ignite you. So pause, inhale. Let this moment brand your spirit. Because you are not who the world said you were. You are not what your trauma claimed you to be. You are a chosen vessel, marked for this hour, equipped with weapons that darkness cannot decode. And understand this: God is not asking you to perform. He is asking you to surrender. He doesn't need you to have it all figured out. He just needs your obedience. The breakthrough will not arrive because of how ready you feel. It will arrive because you dared to believe that His voice was greater than your circumstances. This is your beginning. Don't treat it like an ordinary day. If this word has touched your spirit, comment 444 below. That's your prophetic agreement. Not just a number, a declaration. I receive what God is doing in my life. No, then hit subscribe. Not for hype, but so that you stay connected to the voice that's calling you deeper. Because breakthrough is not a one-time moment. It's a lifestyle you're about to walk in. You are not late. You are right on time. Delay is not denial. You need to hear this. Not just with your ears, but with your spirit. Because there are things you've been praying for, longing for, that seem like they'll never arrive. Doors that should have opened. Prayers that felt like they hit the ceiling. Promises that felt so close, one moment, then vanished, the next. But listen closely. Just because something is delayed does not mean it has been denied. Heaven does not work on human clocks. The world may call it stagnation, but heaven calls it sanctification. While you wait, God works. While you weep, He weaves. And when it's finally time, nothing and no one will be able to stop what He set in motion. It's easy to doubt when everything around you is silent. It's easy to assume you were wrong, that maybe the promise wasn't for you, after all. But faith isn't proven in the manifestation, it's forged in the middle. That in-between place, where you have no evidence but still choose to believe, that's where God shapes warriors. That's where the real ones are made. And you, chosen one, have been walking that tightrope for longer than most would endure. But that endurance has not been in vain. You are being trained. Even in delay, your discernment is sharpening. Your posture is being humbled. Your faith is growing muscles that no blessing can give. Only the waiting can build. There is something sacred in the stillness. When God holds back what you're crying for, it's not cruelty, it's calibration. He knows the exact weight your spirit can carry. And when the fullness of the promise arrives, you'll be ready for it, not broken by it. We find in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13, I can do all things through Christ, who gives me strength. This is what has carried you through every delay. Not your willpower, not your routine, not your emotions, but Christ's strength in you, that quiet strength that whispered, keep going when everything told you to stop, that deep inner push that said, don't quit when logic screamed otherwise. That was never you alone. That was divine strength undergirding your journey through the unknown. You may feel behind. You may feel forgotten. You may even feel cursed. But those are lies. The delay tries to whisper. The truth is, you are not behind. You are being held in God's perfect timeline, what others rushed into and ruined. You are being prepared to steward in excellence. You're not late. You're protected. And here's the hidden miracle while you thought nothing was moving. Heaven was setting things in motion beneath the surface. The hearts of people involved in your next chapter, God is softening them. The connections, the finances, the healing. The doors, you might not see them yet, but the pieces are aligning. The stage is being set. And when God says, now, it won't be a gradual climb. It'll be sudden. Like Joseph going from prison to palace in a single day. What looked like delay will be revealed as divine strategy. And maybe you're asking, why me? Why is my story full of detours while others seem to be running ahead? The answer is wait. The greater the calling, the deeper the roots. You've been assigned to carry something that others could not. That's why the path has been longer. That's why the trials have been harder. You are not just being positioned for a moment, you're being established for a movement. God doesn't waste time. He redeems it. Every delay, every not yet, every moment you thought he was silent, he was preparing the right version of you to step into the promise. Because blessings given too soon become burdens. But blessings given in divine timing, they multiply. They overflow. They transform everything around you. So, no, delay is not your enemy. It's been your covering. You just couldn't see it from where you were standing. But soon you'll look back and thank God he didn't say yes too early. You'll thank him for every not yet that kept you safe from counterfeits. You'll thank him for preserving you while others pressured you to settle. Chosen one. You have not been denied. You have been trusted with the weight. There is a maturity that is being developed in you that cannot be rushed. And that maturity will sustain what's about to be placed in your hands. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep obeying. Because just beyond the silence is the sound of fulfilled promise. God's delays are not his denials. They are his designs. You've been hidden, but not forgotten. That ache you've been carrying in the quiet, the one no one else seems to understand, God has heard it. The seasons where it felt like the spotlight passed you by, the room overlooked your gifts, and people forgot your name, those seasons were not wasted. They were divine coverings. God was hiding you in plain sight, and it wasn't to punish you. It was to preserve you. What you didn't realize is that the hidden season was an answer to a prayer you may have forgotten you prayed. Lord, use me for your glory. That kind of prayer doesn't bring instant applause. It brings refining. It brings wilderness. It brings long nights of becoming before the doors of releasing ever open. You didn't fail. You were set apart. While others were being platformed prematurely, you were being rooted. While some were chasing recognition, God was giving you revelation. And revelation always precedes elevation. Because what you're carrying is too sacred to be exposed before it's sealed. You weren't waiting in silence, you were being secured. But let's be honest, buying hidden hurts. Watching others pass you by. Getting opportunities. Getting seen. While you stay in the same place, yes. It's painful. But that pain wasn't rejection. It was redirection. God was shielding you from being planted in the wrong places. He was ensuring that when you are revealed, you won't crumble under the pressure. He was protecting the oil on your life. Some of the people you admired weren't built to last. They were built to impress. But you were built for impact. You weren't made for moments. You were made for movement. And movements require a foundation deep enough to withstand the shaking. That's what God's been doing all along. You thought he was silent, but he was digging, excavating, uprooting old patterns, breaking soul ties, healing generational wounds. And he couldn't do all of that in public. He needed your yes in the secret place. He needed your surrender before your spotlight. because the platform can't purify what only the hidden place can heal. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 31, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles." That's why you haven't burned out. That's why, even with disappointment and delay, your spirit still rises. Because your hope wasn't in the system. It wasn't in the algorithm. It wasn't in the applause. Your hope has been in the Lord. And now He is renewing your strength. Quietly, deeply, permanently. The eagle doesn't flap like other birds. It soars. It waits for the right wind. And when it comes, it stretches its wings and lets the current carry it. That's where you are now. The wind of God is rising beneath you. And all the waiting, the hiding, the inner war, it's about to make sense. But this is also a warning. Don't run out before you're released. There's a difference between being ready in your own eyes and being released by heaven. You may feel the fire building up in you, and that's good. But stay surrendered. Don't rush. God's timing will not fail. When He reveals you, there will be no striving, no forcing, no proving. You won't have to open your own doors. They'll swing open by divine command. You will not be hidden forever. But when your time comes, it won't look like what the world expects. It will be God-written, God-ordained, and God-sealed. No one will be able to say they made you. No influencer, no platform, no system. Only heaven will get the glory. And when the moment comes, it won't just elevate you. It will impact others. Your story, your scars, your silence, it will all speak. You didn't suffer for nothing. You were being prepared for someone else's rescue. And when you open your mouth, demons will tremble, not because of who you are, but because of what you've survived. Now, here's your moment to agree with heaven. Comment, "I hear you." Just that. That's all. A simple agreement. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not trying to perform. You're just saying, "God, I hear you in this word. I see what you're doing. I won't resist the process anymore." Write it below. Then sit in stillness for a moment. Let your spirit receive what your mind is still trying to catch up with. You are not abandoned. You are not overlooked. You are hidden for glory. And when God pulls the curtain back on your life, it will make sense why you had to wait so long. You already know. Even before the confirmation came, even before the signs showed up, even before the words were spoken aloud, deep in your spirit, you knew something had shifted. You couldn't explain it to anyone. You couldn't quite articulate the sensation, but something inside you whispered, "It's time." End of teen. It wasn't wishful thinking. It wasn't emotional hype. It was a spiritual alert. A quiet yet undeniable sound ringing inside your soul. A frequency that didn't come from this world but from heaven itself. And even when your mind doubted, even when your circumstances screamed the opposite, your spirit held the line. Because God was speaking, not through noise, but through knowing. That is the mark of the chosen. They feel it before they see it. They hear the sound of rain before the sky ever darkens. They prepare the altar before the fire ever falls. You have carried this knowing for longer than you've admitted. And it's not just because you're sensitive, it's because you're spirit-led. God has been communicating with you, not just through prophecy, but through peace. Not just through signs, but through stillness. You've felt the tug in your chest, the urgency to make room, the prompting to lay certain things down, to walk away from old patterns, to clean the house of your heart. That wasn't random. That was alignment. The Holy Spirit has been preparing you, not for survival, but for arrival. And you don't need a loud announcement. Your soul already knows the King is coming closer. It's like a pregnant woman who doesn't need the doctor to tell her when the baby is near. Her body lets her know. The signs become undeniable. Things begin to shift. Pain intensifies. Pressure builds. Everything starts moving. That's what's happening in the spirit. You're not crazy, you're in labor. And what's being birthed is not small. You've tried to ignore it, tried to suppress it. You didn't want to get your hopes up again. You didn't want to be disappointed again. But that resistance is wearing down because the truth won't leave you alone. It keeps visiting you in your sleep. It keeps showing up in your worship. It keeps echoing in your silence. You are being summoned into alignment with heaven's timetable. You're not being arrogant. You're being awakened. There's a holy confidence stirring within you, not rooted in your talent, but in your surrender. You've gone through enough breaking to know that pride has no place here. What you sense isn't ego. It's evidence. Evidence that the time is near. Evidence that God is closer than you've ever imagined. It is written in the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 7. Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. Oh, God doesn't move in silence when it comes to his chosen ones. He alerts them. He warns them. He whispers to them long before anything manifests. That's what he's been doing with you. You haven't been paranoid. You've been preparing. You haven't been overly emotional. You've been spiritually sensitive. You've been discerning what's coming, even when others couldn't see it. This is why you've been restless, why your appetite for shallow things has dried up, why you've been disinterested in distractions, why even familiar environments feel foreign now, because you've outgrown your current atmosphere. The spirit within you has expanded, and it cannot fit in yesterday's patterns. God is enlarging your capacity because he's about to increase your assignment. The shift is already underway, but it's not always loud. Often, it begins as a whisper, "Let that go," or "Call this person," or "Fast this week." Little instructions that seem random but are deeply prophetic. That's the language of heaven. Subtle, yet specific. Gentle, yet deeply piercing. And when you obey, things begin to accelerate. So don't second-guess what you're sensing. Don't silence the spirit just because the facts don't line up yet. Remember, faith moves first. The spirit speaks ahead of the timeline. And when your knowing collides with God's timing, manifestation becomes inevitable. You don't need another confirmation. You are the confirmation. God has placed within you a spiritual radar, and it's going off now because the hour is close. Your spirit isn't reacting to hype, it's responding to heaven. And the beauty of this knowing, it anchors you when nothing else makes sense. It keeps you grounded when storms rage. It gives you peace that surpasses logic. Because deep down, you know he is with you. He is for you. And what he started, he will complete. So move in quiet confidence. Let others misunderstand your peace. Let them question your steps. You don't need their validation. You have the witness of the Spirit. And that witness is saying, "Get ready, your season is closer than it looks." This is divine timing. You didn't just stumble into this moment, you were drawn into it. Something about this season has felt different, more intense, more personal. It's like time itself has slowed down around you while your spirit accelerates. Things that once made sense don't anymore. People who once fit in your circle now feel distant. Your appetite for surface-level things has faded, and a hunger for the deeper things of God has begun to stir. That's no accident. That's heaven signaling, pay attention. This is a divine window. There are moments in your life where everything aligns, not because of your striving, but because of God's design. These are windows in time where heaven invites you to step forward, to obey quickly, to move boldly. This is one of those moments, and it's not just about blessing, it's about positioning. Because where you go from here isn't random, it's strategic. God is aligning you with people, places, and instructions that carry eternal weight. You might feel the tension right now, like something is pulling you forward, while something else is trying to hold you back. That's how divine moments feel. You are standing at a spiritual fork in the road, and every hesitation, every distraction, every delay, it's not just about inconvenience, it's warfare. Because the enemy knows what happens if you say yes. He knows the chain reaction that one act of obedience will set off. He knows how many lives your breakthrough will influence. That's why it's been so hard. That's why the pressure's been building. Because this is not a normal moment. This is appointed, and you've felt it. That stirring, that weight, that ache that says, I was made for more than this. That's not ambition, it's awakening. God is waking up the part of you that can no longer settle. You were never called to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were wired to carry something the world has never seen before. And this exact time in history, this generation needs what's inside you. It was proclaimed in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. How long will you waver between two opinions, if the Lord is God? Follow him. This is not the hour to hesitate. It's the hour to decide, to stop wavering, to stop entertaining voices that pull you in circles. You know where your help comes from. You know who called you. You know the sound of his voice. And deep down, you know what he's asking from you in this season. The only question left is, will you obey? Obedience in this moment isn't about performance, it's about proximity. God is calling you closer, not just to speak to you, but to move through you. He wants to make you a vessel, a voice, a living example of what grace looks like in motion. And for that to happen, you need to respond, not later, but now. Not when it's convenient, but when it's conviction. And you're not alone. You were never meant to walk this path by yourself. There are others chosen, like you hearing this same call. They're scattered across the earth, but they're united by the Spirit. And part of stepping into this divine timing is saying, I will no longer walk isolated. I will connect with the sound of heaven and the family God is building. No. So if you feel this word resonating deep in your spirit, let this be your sign to step into alignment, to not just hear, but respond. There's more coming, more prophetic confirmations, more spiritual downloads, more truth you didn't even know you needed, and they're coming quickly. Stay connected. Don't let this moment pass you by. If you haven't yet, this is your invitation to like this message, not to boost a platform, but to push this word further. Every click places this in front of someone else who's crying out for a sign. And if your spirit feels drawn here, Share this word. Send it to someone you know is in the middle of their breaking point. This could be the very confirmation they've been pleading for. And if you haven't already, subscribe and stay linked to the flow of what God is doing in this space. This isn't just content, it's a current of revival. And you're meant to ride the wave, not just watch from the shore. You are standing in a divine intersection. The old is fading, the new is forming, and your yes carries more weight than you know. Heaven is moving. Will you move with it? This is your moment. This is divine timing. Step into it. Help from heaven is here. And it's not coming in the way you expected. It's not wrapped in glitter. It doesn't come through loud fanfare or flashing signs. No. It arrives quietly, powerfully, unmistakably in the stillness, in the sacred silence after surrender. God has released help to you in this very moment. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, this is the part of your journey where you begin to realize that you've never truly been alone, not even once. Every time you thought you couldn't take another step, and yet you did. Every time you whispered a prayer through clenched teeth and salty tears. Every time you sat in the dark, but still felt the tiniest flicker of peace. That wasn't your strength. That was divine assistance. Heaven has been closer than your skin, watching you endure what most would collapse under. And now, the help that was hidden is stepping into the open. Angels have been dispatched. Strategies are being dropped into your spirit. Provision is being directed toward you. The atmosphere around you is shifting, not because of your effort, but because of your alignment. You've been thinking, I don't know how much more I can take. But what you don't see is that heaven has already begun lifting what was too heavy for you to carry alone. That financial strain, that emotional weight, that fear about the future. Heaven is not ignoring it. Heaven is invading it. There is divine reinforcement surrounding you right now. And you didn't have to beg for it. You didn't have to perform for it. You simply had to survive long enough to see it arrive. And you did. You're still here. Not because the battle wasn't real, but because you were never fighting alone. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. That's not a poetic metaphor. That's a promise. Angels, assigned, sent to guard you, guide you, and war on your behalf. You've been surrounded when you didn't even know it. That car accident that didn't happen, that mistake that didn't destroy you, that heartbreak that didn't end you, angels were present. You were shielded by something greater than coincidence. Heaven's help doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it's the right person at the right time. Sometimes it's a delayed yes that ends up saving your future. Sometimes it's a closed door that feels cruel but ends up being divine protection. Sometimes it's a message like this one that arrests your spirit and reminds you, you're not forgotten. You're not alone. You're still covered. Uplift. Help is not on the way. It's already here. It's here in the wisdom that suddenly enters your spirit. It's here in the peace that makes no sense. It's here in the clarity that breaks through confusion. It's here in the strength you didn't think you had left. The supernatural is moving through your natural, and you are about to feel the difference. And this time, you won't have to strive for it. You won't have to fight to keep it. The grace that is now on your life will sustain you. This help is holy. This help is complete. It is not partial. It is not conditional. It is heaven's answer to every cry, every sacrifice, every surrendered yes you've offered in the quiet places. Let this truth wash over you. God sees, and God sends. He sees where you are, and He sends exactly what you need, and not a moment too late. You are not abandoned. You are assisted. You are surrounded, and the evidence will soon be undeniable. So when the weight suddenly lifts, when the phone call you weren't expecting comes, when your heart begins to heal in places you didn't even realize were wounded, know this: it is not coincidence. It is the help of heaven. God's timing is never late. His hand is never far, and His help is always exactly what your soul needed. Now, here's your moment to come into prophetic agreement, not with a long sentence, not with complicated words, just a number. Comment 2222. Why 22? 22. Because this is the hour of divine alignment, a time where heaven and earth are agreeing over your life, a time where what you've hoped for in faith is about to meet manifestation in reality. This number is not a gimmick, it's a prophetic act, a signal to God and to yourself. I believe help is here. Write it. Declare it. Seal it. God's help is not just sufficient, it is sovereign. You were built for this, not by chance, not by luck, but by divine intention. Everything you've endured, every pressure you've felt, every crushing season you've survived, it all points to one undeniable truth. You were made to carry what others could not. You weren't chosen to have it easy. You were chosen to walk through fire and come out refined. Others would have folded under the weight you've carried. They would have given up at the first sign of resistance. But not you. You kept showing up. You kept waking up. You kept trusting, sometimes with nothing but a mustard seed of faith. That seed didn't grow overnight, but it held you. It rooted you. And now, God is about to show you why you had to carry so much. Because what's coming next isn't small. It's not shallow. It's not temporary. It's heavy with purpose. And only those who've been proven in the fire can handle it. That's why you didn't die in the delay. That's why you weren't crushed in the dark. You were being strengthened in secret for something that will be seen in the light. The crushing seasons weren't punishment, they were preparation. God wasn't trying to destroy you. He was trying to define you. And He used pressure as the tool to reveal what He already placed inside you. The pressure revealed your persistence. The pain revealed your purpose. The isolation revealed your identity. Nothing was wasted. And though it may have felt like breaking, it was really building. You thought you were falling apart, but you were actually being formed, like clay on a potter's wheel, spinning and spinning, pressed and reshaped, yet never abandoned. The potter's hands never left you. He knew exactly how much pressure to apply, and exactly when to ease up. He wasn't being cruel. He was being intentional. The prophet Jeremiah recorded in chapter 18, verse 6, "Like clay in the hand of the potter, so are you in my hand." This is where many fall off the path when the pressure gets too great and the process too long. But not you. You didn't run. You didn't escape the fire. You endured it. You didn't look for shortcuts. You stayed in the shaping. That's what separates the chosen from the comfortable. The chosen allow the crushing to complete its work. And now, you're emerging, not just with knowledge, but with authority. Because authority in the Spirit doesn't come from platform or position. It comes from pain endured in silence, from obedience when it was costly, from praising God while you were bleeding. That's where true anointing is forged in the furnace of real life. You see, people might admire your light, but they'll never understand the cost of your oil. They weren't there for the nights you couldn't sleep, the mornings you didn't want to rise, the battles you had to fight just to keep breathing. But heaven saw it all, and heaven is rewarding what was built in the unseen. You didn't go through all of that to stay silent. You didn't survive all that fire just to sit in the background. You were built for this moment in history. You are part of a remnant, those who didn't compromise, didn't quit, didn't follow the crowd. And now, your voice, your story, your calling, it carries weight. When you speak, chains break, not because your voice is loud, but because your life is real, because your testimony wasn't scripted, it was lived. And that kind of authenticity pierces through pretense and awakens the sleeping. The strength you carry now didn't come cheap. It cost you comfort. It cost you relationships. It cost you seasons of confusion and despair. But look at you, still standing, still seeking God, still open to His will. That is evidence of supernatural resilience. And that resilience isn't just for you, it's for the ones watching, for those who don't know if they'll make it through their own fire, for the next generation looking for someone who didn't fake their way through it. You are a walking answer to the question, is it possible to endure and still be whole? Yes. And you are the proof. So stand tall. You're not arrogant. You're anchored. You're not broken. You're built. Every scar is a testament to God's sustaining power. Every crack is a place where His glory shines through. And every breath you take is a reminder that you were built for this, not by your strength, but by His. And the one who formed you in the fire is now about to launch you into purpose. They're going to see it. The ones who doubted you, the ones who whispered when you walked in the room, the ones who labeled you, dismissed you, underestimated you, they are about to witness what God has been doing in the dark all this time. And no, it won't be to humiliate them, it will be to glorify Him. Because the table God is preparing for you is not just a personal blessing, it's a public testimony. What they thought was your failure was actually your formation. And now that the process is nearly complete, heaven is getting ready to reveal what was hidden. There's a difference between revenge and redemption. God is not interested in proving your enemies wrong. He's interested in proving Himself faithful. The goal isn't their embarrassment, it's your elevation. But yes, they will see it, not to watch you flex, but to watch God fulfill every word He spoke over you. It's important to understand that vindication doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it's silent, just your life rising in truth, while theirs remains stuck in false narratives. God doesn't need to shout when He moves. His power speaks for itself. And when He moves on your behalf, the same people who questioned your value will be convicted by your fruit. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." There it is. Not just a promise of provision, not just a seat of honor, but the deliberate positioning of that seat in front of those who tried to bury you. And not so you can boast, but so you can show grace. Because that's the deeper work God's been doing, preparing not only your victory, but also your heart. It's easy to celebrate the idea of being seen, but God doesn't elevate the bitter. He elevates the healed. That's why he's taken so long. He wanted to make sure that when the light hit you, your soul was clean. He wanted to know that if your name were called today, you wouldn't use your breakthrough to retaliate, you'd use it to restore. Some of the people who tried to sabotage you didn't know they were pushing you deeper into destiny. They thought they were shutting you down, but they were actually shaping your resilience. Their rejection didn't end you, it aimed you. It forced you to depend on God alone, to seek His voice when others turned theirs away. And now, you carry something they can't duplicate. Authentic oil. They're going to see you walking in favor they can't explain. Doors opening that no one else could have forced open. Peace that doesn't match your past. Wisdom that defies your experience. They'll wonder how you made it. And you'll know the truth. You didn't, God carried you. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to defend your past. You don't need to rehearse the pain. All you need to do is stay planted, stay humble, and keep moving. The same God who watched every injustice is the God who's about to reverse the narrative. You don't have to chase validation. You just have to walk in alignment. And yes, there will be moments when your elevation feels uncomfortable, when blessings arrive faster than your mind can process, when old environments start treating you differently, not because you've changed, but because your anointing can no longer be ignored. Don't let that scare you. Let it confirm what God already told you. You're being called higher. What's coming next won't need your permission. It already has God's. And when it happens, don't shrink. Don't apologize for what He's doing. Don't try to make it smaller so others can feel more comfortable. You paid for this table. With tears, with silence, with obedience, with every time you chose faith instead of retaliation. And when you sit at that table, let your spirit be still. Don't gloat. Don't boast. Don't prove. Appoint. Just rest. Because the proof will be undeniable. Not just in what's on the table, but in how you sit at it. Calm. Confident. Redeemed. Free. They'll see the evidence. They'll see the grace. And if their hearts are open, they'll see God. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter written in favor, authored in heaven, and sealed with glory. And those who once doubted you, they will be eyewitnesses not of your success but of God's faithfulness. Stop questioning your worth. You've done it quietly, haven't you? You've looked in the mirror and wondered if you were enough, if your voice mattered, if your life carried meaning. You've replayed past mistakes like a broken record, doubting your future because of your past. You've measured your worth through the lens of rejection, delay, silence, and none of those things were ever meant to define you. But hear this: you are not worthless. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible to heaven. Just because people didn't see you doesn't mean God ever looked away. Just because they didn't choose you doesn't mean you weren't chosen. God saw you when you were overlooked. He heard you when no one was listening. And He approved of you long before anyone else had a say. You've been waiting for someone to call out what you carry. Waiting for someone to recognize the weight inside you. But what if I told you you are the evidence of the calling you seek? The fruit is already growing. The anointing is already flowing. The change has already begun. You don't need another sign. You don't need another door to open before you believe. You are the sign. You are the proof that something holy is already happening. Still, the enemy has tried everything to make you doubt it. whispering lies in your weakest moments, sending people who reflect your insecurities instead of your calling, surrounding you with noise so loud it drowns out your own inner witness. But God is silencing all of it now, because it's time you remember who you are. It is written in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 10, "For we are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You are a masterpiece, not a mistake, not an afterthought, not a burden to be managed. You were created with precision and placed on earth on purpose. There's no one else with your fingerprint, no one else with your path, no one else with your exact assignment. That's why comparison is so dangerous, because it convinces you to copy what can never carry your oil. You weren't made to imitate, you were made to ignite. The battle you've been fighting in your mind, the one about not being good enough, not being spiritual enough, not being strong enough, it ends today. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be enough on your own. God's power is made perfect in your weakness. His Spirit fills the gaps. His grace carries what you can't. And that means your shortcomings are not disqualifiers. They are invitations. Invitations for God to step in and do what only He can do. You've cried over timelines, over people who walked away, over doors that didn't open. But those tears weren't wasted. They were watering the ground for what's about to grow. God didn't ignore your pain. He's been using it, shaping it, turning it into power. You thought it broke you, but it actually birthed you. You're not just surviving, you're becoming. And here's what you need to know. When you finally realize your worth, the atmosphere around you changes. The room responds differently to someone who knows they're chosen. Doors that were locked begin to swing open, not because you're striving, but because you're aligned. Power follows identity, and identity starts with agreement. So today, agree with heaven. No more questioning if you're enough. No more measuring your value through temporary circumstances or human opinions. What heaven declared over you still stands. You are a masterpiece. You are chosen. You are seen. And you are more than worthy of the calling on your life. You don't need to overthink it. You don't need to explain it. You just need to say yes. Yes to healing. Yes to worth. Yes to walking with the confidence of someone God designed on purpose for this generation. And now, I want you to put something in the atmosphere, something simple but powerful. Comment, "I am ready." Just 3 words. Not to impress anyone, not to be seen by others, but to declare with your own voice what your spirit has known all along. You are ready. Ready to stop doubting. Ready to stop hiding. Ready to walk in the worth that was never in question in heaven. Let those words break every lie that said you weren't good enough. Let them cancel the shame. Let them realign your thinking. Let them mark this moment. You are worthy of the anointing on your life. You are worthy of the love that heaven keeps pouring out. And you are worthy of the new beginning that's already forming in front of you. This is not small. What God is doing in your life, even if it feels quiet right now, is monumental. It may not look loud yet. It may not have the public spotlight or widespread applause. But don't mistake subtlety for insignificance. What's growing under the surface is holy. It's legacy level. It's generational. And it's going to shake more than just your personal life. It's going to shake atmospheres. You didn't come this far just to receive something temporary. You weren't pressed through years of fire just to hold a minor testimony. God doesn't waste time, and He certainly doesn't invest this much oil in someone He doesn't plan to send out. This isn't just about you. It's about everything and everyone connected to you. Your breakthrough is not just personal, it's prophetic. It's not just for your comfort, it's for kingdom purpose. You're not just being elevated, you're being entrusted with territory, with voices, with people who will come to know God, not because you preached at them, but because they witnessed the way you endured and emerged. You thought the waiting was punishment, but it was divine positioning. You thought the quiet seasons meant God was far away, but they were actually the seasons when He was closest, whispering strategy, reshaping identity, deepening your foundation. Because this move that's coming can't be shallow. It has to last. And what lasts must be built in the Spirit, not on human approval. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 22. The least of you will become 1,000, the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time I will do this swiftly. That's what you're stepping into. A divine acceleration that has nothing to do with algorithms, networks, or connections, and everything to do with timing. Heaven's timing. The kind that looks slow for years and then suddenly shifts in a single moment. What seemed small will be multiplied. What looked insignificant will become influential. Not because of ego, but because of obedience. You've walked through enough obscurity to know that this is not about clout. It's about assignment. You're not chasing influence, you're carrying impact. And impact doesn't need permission. It doesn't need a platform. When God breathes on what you carry, it will reach who it needs to reach, how it needs to reach them. This is why you couldn't afford to quit. Why the pressure intensified before the promise arrived. Why you were tempted to shrink, disappear, run. Because the enemy saw what was forming before you did. He knew that if you ever believed what God said about you and walked in it, you'd become a threat to the kingdom of darkness. And now you're here, not at the end, but at a holy intersection. A moment where obedience meets opportunity, where everything you've survived is about to be given purpose, where the oil that was pressed out of you in the hidden seasons becomes the fuel for the fire God is about to light. So here's what I want you to do. If this word is meeting you where you are, if you know you're on the edge of something bigger than yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like on this message, not for numbers, but because every click signals to the algorithm that someone else needs this word too. You're not just liking, you're planting a seed into someone else's breakthrough. Then share it. Send it to a friend, a sibling, a parent, a co-worker, anyone who's been asking for confirmation. Sometimes all it takes is a single word spoken in due season to change the course of someone's life. And if God is using this space to speak to you, He can use it to speak through you. And finally, if you haven't already, subscribe. Stay connected to what heaven is doing here, not out of obligation, but because this isn't a one-time moment. It's a journey, a stream of prophetic clarity, encouragement, and correction that will keep flowing as long as there are chosen ones willing to listen and respond. This isn't small. This isn't shallow. This is legacy. This is obedience at scale. This is purpose unrolling in real time. And your yes is the key that unlocks the next level, not just for you, but for everyone watching your story unfold. Don't downplay it anymore. Don't minimize the magnitude of what you carry. Don't apologize for the call on your life. This is not small. This is kingdom. The chains are breaking, not tomorrow, not someday in the distance. Now, the unseen weight that's been clinging to your spirit is coming off, not because you've done everything perfectly, but because God's mercy has reached into your moment and said, enough. Every invisible chain, fear, shame, self-doubt, anxiety, guilt, generational patterns is beginning to fall. You may not have realized how tightly those chains were wrapped around you. Sometimes, bondage doesn't look like bars and shackles. Sometimes, it looks like people-pleasing. Sometimes, it hides in procrastination. Sometimes, it disguises itself as constant striving, trying to prove your worth to people who were never your judges to begin with. But heaven knows the difference. And God, in His infinite compassion, is not just pulling you forward, He's breaking the things that kept pulling you back. The cycles that started in childhood, the habits that got passed down like heirlooms, the thoughts that said, "This is just the way things are." No, that is not your inheritance. You were not born to live in circles. You were born to walk in freedom. The chains that held your parents won't hold you. The pain that ran through your bloodline ends with you. You are not the continuation of dysfunction, you are the interruption of it. You are not carrying curses, you are carrying covenant. And that covenant has power. That covenant breaks patterns. That covenant sets new trajectories into motion. The Word of God declares in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 36, "So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed." End of. Not kind of free. Not temporarily free. Free indeed. That means the things that tried to attach themselves to your life no longer have authority. That means your history can no longer dictate your destiny. That means what bound you yesterday has no right to follow you into tomorrow. But this freedom doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it begins quietly, with a decision. A moment where you choose to see the chain for what it is, a lie. A voice that says, "You'll always be this way," that nothing can change, that you've missed your moment, that you're too broken, too far gone, too messed up. Those voices are not truth. They are strongholds, and strongholds fall when truth enters. The truth is, God never left you in that pattern. Even when you went back to it, even when you thought you'd outgrown it, only to fall into it again. He stayed. He kept pulling. He kept whispering, "There's more." And now, He's opening a way out, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because real freedom doesn't just move you to a new location, it gives you a new language, a new mind, a new heart. This is why the warfare intensified before now. Chains don't break without resistance. Every time you prayed and felt nothing, warfare. Every time you tried to forgive, but bitterness returned, warfare. Every time you thought you were healed, only for old wounds to reopen, warfare. But each battle was loosening the grip. Each tear was weakening the chain. And now, it's snapping. Not because you shouted loud enough, not because you fasted long enough, but because God's grace has collided with your surrender. That's the power of partnership with heaven. When your yielded heart meets His unstoppable love, bondage has no choice but to break. And let this settle in your soul. You don't owe your chains an explanation. You don't have to explain why you're changing. You don't have to justify why you won't tolerate what you used to. You don't have to apologize for growing, healing, becoming. Let the change speak for itself. Let the fruit speak louder than your past. You're not the same, and you're not going back. Freedom is costly, but it's worth everything. It means walking away from what feels comfortable but keeps you bound. It means choosing purpose over patterns. It means trusting that God's way, even when it's hard, is better than any familiar prison. And it means believing that you are worthy of being free. So take a deep breath, not just to calm your mind, but to reset your spirit. You've been holding your breath in survival mode long enough. This is your exhale. This is your moment to stand tall, not in pride, but in deliverance. You are not who you were. You are not where you were. The chains are breaking, and you are rising. Let the sound of freedom echo in your silence. Let the peace of God confirm what your soul already knows. You are free. Something is shifting right now, not just around you, but inside of you. You can feel it. The weight is changing. The air feels different. The distractions that once consumed your mind have started to lose their grip, and the fear that once controlled your choices is now beginning to fade. It's not an illusion. It's not emotional. It's spiritual. You've stepped into a moment of divine agreement. Heaven is speaking clearly. This is the hour of alignment. 1. Not next year. Not 5 months from now. Now. God is not asking for perfection. He's asking for your attention. He's asking for your surrender. Because what He's releasing in this season is not for the half-committed. It's for those who are fully aligned, fully yielded, fully aware that this is sacred ground. Something happens when your heart says yes before your circumstances change. When your soul aligns with God's will before the breakthrough shows up. That kind of yes, that quiet, bold, trembling, still I believe, shakes the unseen realm. It invites heaven to act. It pulls angels into motion. It releases favor that logic can't explain. This isn't hype. This is holy. Some of you reading this have been walking through confusion. You felt like you were moving but going nowhere. You've asked, God, where are you in all this? But you need to understand, when the path feels the most unclear, that's often when God is doing His deepest work. He's not just leading you to a place, He's leading you to a posture, one of full dependence, one of full obedience. He's not withholding from you. He's refining you. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's what's happening. Your mind is being renewed. Your patterns are being rewritten. And transformation doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it starts with small decisions. Waking up and praying instead of scrolling. Choosing peace instead of responding in anger. Letting go of bitterness even when no apology came. These are the actions of someone who is aligning, someone who knows they've been called higher. And as you align, heaven responds. Things begin to open. Delays begin to lift. The fog starts to clear. Because God doesn't bless confusion, He blesses clarity. He doesn't move in chaos, He moves in order. And when your soul comes into agreement with His Spirit, order is restored. That's why you're reading this right now. This is a divine checkpoint. God is giving you a chance to agree with what He's already planned, to stop second-guessing what He's confirmed, to stop arguing with grace, to stop returning to places He already called you out of. This is not just another word. This is a pivot point in your walk. And it's not just about your life. It's about the lives attached to your obedience. Your yes will break chains in others. Your alignment will make room for legacy. Your surrender will create a ripple effect of transformation beyond your house, beyond your bloodline, beyond your generation. So take this moment seriously. Don't brush it off. Don't wait for another sign. You've heard enough to move. You've seen enough to obey. You've survived enough to know God is real, and His hand is on you. Now, mark this moment. Comment 5,555. Why 5,555? Because biblically, 5 is the number of grace. And grace is what's being poured out right now in overwhelming measure. Not just grace to be forgiven, but grace to move forward. Grace to walk in purpose. Grace to shed the old skin. Grace to walk in rooms you once felt unworthy to enter. Grace to speak what you once were too afraid to say. This number is your agreement, not with me but with heaven. A prophetic act of saying, Lord, I receive your grace. I align with your will. I walk in your timing. Oh, write it. Declare it. Let the act of typing 5,555 be your signature on a spiritual contract. I agree with what God is doing in my life, fully, freely, and without delay. Because from this moment forward, things are not staying the same. You've crossed into alignment, and what aligns with heaven will always advance on earth. And remember, alignment may not always be easy, but it is necessary if you want to carry the weight of what God is about to release. This battle wasn't yours. You've been fighting, and not just physically. Your mind has been a battleground. Your emotions have been stretched thin. Some days you wake up weary before the day even begins. You've stood in the gap. You've prayed through the tears. You've fasted when no one knew. You've warred in silence, carrying weight that was never yours to carry in the first place. But hear this now, this battle is not yours, it belongs to the Lord. You were never created to sustain every pressure, to solve every crisis, to fight every spiritual war by yourself. You were never meant to carry every burden on your shoulders like you were the Savior. There is only one deliverer, one defender, one king. And He has not called you to exhaustion, He has called you to trust. Somewhere along the journey, you confused your assignment with ownership. You took on battles that looked familiar, but weren't yours to engage. You stepped into warfare that wasn't sanctioned by heaven. You responded to attacks that were meant to pass over you. And slowly, your spirit grew tired. You felt spiritually winded, emotionally numb, and mentally overextended. That's not spiritual maturity. That's spiritual overload. You see, the enemy doesn't always come to destroy you through obvious attacks. Sometimes, he wears you down by making you believe that you must fix everything. He deceives you into thinking that God's silence is a cue for you to take control. He tempts you to act out of urgency instead of obedience. But God never asked you to fight alone. In fact, there are battles you were never asked to fight at all. Some are meant to be handed over. Some are meant to be surrendered. Some are meant to drive you to your knees, not into overdrive. Because in the kingdom, victory doesn't come from striving, it comes from surrender. It is written in the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 15. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. End of This is what God is speaking to your spirit now. That war you've been waging in your mind, the inner wrestling with your past, the torment over the what-ifs and what-nexts, that battle belongs to Him. The conflict in your family, the situation at your job, the storm in your finances, even the chaos in your relationships. You don't have to control what God has already claimed jurisdiction over. He doesn't need your micromanaging. He needs your faith, your willingness to say, God, I release this, not because I'm weak, but because I finally understand you are strong. End of free. You can rest. You can breathe. You can sleep without nightmares. You can worship without fear, because when God takes over a battle, the outcome is not just victory, it's transformation. He doesn't just win, He redeems. He restores what was lost in the fight. He brings beauty out of the ashes. He makes your scars part of your testimony. And don't feel ashamed that you were carrying what wasn't yours. That realization isn't condemnation, it's invitation. An invitation to come back into rhythm with God's design. To trade burdens for peace. To step back so that He can step in. Let this moment be the shift. The day you stopped reacting to everything that came against you. The moment you learned to lift your hands instead of clenching your fists. Because when you lift your hands, you're not giving up. You're giving over. You're not weak for needing help. You're wise for choosing surrender. Imagine what would happen if you laid it down. If you stopped trying to be everything for everyone. If you finally let go of what God never asked you to carry. How much lighter would your soul feel? How much clearer would your hearing become? How much more would you trust His timing if you weren't trying to control His methods? The truth is, God has been waiting not for you to do more, but for you to let go. So let this be your exhale, your release, your reset. You're not a failure for feeling tired. You're not less spiritual for being worn down. You're simply human. And God knows that. That's why He said the battle is His. That's why He gave you permission to rest in His strength. That's why you don't need to prove anything, because He has already gone before you. The war is real, but so is your defender. Let Him fight for you. Let Him speak for you. Let Him cover you. The outcome is already secured, not by your might, not by your strength, but by His Spirit. You were never created to carry what only the King could conquer. Obedience unlocks the door. Not effort, not striving, not trying to earn your way through. It has always been obedience, quiet, simple, often unseen. But obedience is heaven's key. The difference between delay and release is not always the size of your faith, it's often the posture of your obedience. God isn't moved by performance. He's moved by surrender. And surrender is proven through obedience, not in the loud moments, but in the secret ones, when you say no to what tempts you, even when no one is watching. When you choose silence over retaliation, when you give what He asked, even when it costs you comfort. These are the acts that break open the impossible. These are the small, sacred decisions that cause spiritual doors to swing open. You've been praying for breakthrough, and God has been waiting, not for more words, but for more yielding. He's not withholding anything to punish you. He's protecting what's on the other side of your yes. Because when God opens a door, He doesn't just invite you in. He assigns responsibility, and only those who are prepared to obey fully are ready to steward what's behind it. This is where many get stuck. They want the blessing, but not the boundary. They want the promise, but not the process. But that's not how the kingdom works. Before God trusts you with influence, He tests you with instructions, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Obedience doesn't limit you, it launches you. It was written in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 1. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all His commands, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. No, this isn't about legalism. This is about alignment. When you walk in obedience, you're not earning blessings. You're stepping into what was already yours. You're coming into agreement with God's original intention. And when your heart and His word move in sync, access is granted. You've already seen the patterns. Times where you obeyed and favor followed. Moments when you hesitated and the door closed. These weren't coincidences, they were confirmations. God has been showing you the power of a surrendered yes all along. Not because He needs your actions, but because He desires your trust. Obedience builds trust, and trust builds momentum. The more you follow God's voice, the clearer it becomes. And the more you walk in His instructions, the less confused you feel. That's the irony. Most confusion in the spiritual walk isn't due to God's silence, but due to our resistance. When you delay obedience, clarity will always feel out of reach. But the good news is, clarity returns the moment you obey. Think back. How many times did peace flood in right after you finally said yes? How often did things begin to shift once you let go of what He told you to release? The discomfort of obedience always gives way to the reward of alignment. This is your moment to remember. Obedience doesn't always make sense before the miracle. God often gives instructions that seem backwards to your logic. Build an ark when there's no rain. March around a wall instead of attacking it. Pour water on the altar before calling down fire. Over and over again. God reveals His glory after obedience. You may not understand the full picture, but can you obey with what you know? Can you trust Him enough to move when He says move? Even if you can't see the outcome yet, that's faith. That's trust. That's the kind of obedience that opens what no man can shut. And it's not just the big moments that matter. It's the daily obedience, the ordinary decisions, the unseen sacrifices. It's saying yes, even when your feelings say no. It's forgiving, even when it still hurts. It's staying when you want to run, and walking away when everything in you wants to cling. It's showing up when no one sees. That is where heaven leans in. The doors you've been praying for are real, but they're not unlocked by force. They're unlocked by obedience. The kind that says, God, I trust you more than I trust my timeline. I choose your way, even when mine feels easier. He's not looking for performance. He's looking for posture, a heart fully surrendered, fully yielded, and ready to move, because the key is already in your hand. The moment you obey, the door opens. You carry glory. You may not always feel it. You may not always see it reflected in your circumstances, but the truth remains, heaven has placed weight on your life. Divine weight, glory that disrupts atmospheres, glory that shifts rooms, glory that convicts hearts without a word spoken. This is not just emotion. It's not just inspiration. It's identity. You carry something the world didn't give you, and the world can't take it away. Even in your lowest moments, the evidence of God's mark on your life has never left. Even in silence, heaven has still been speaking over you. This one is mine. Oh, that's why you've never fit in. That's why the places you used to hide no longer satisfy. That's why old habits feel hollow. And distractions don't hit the same. It's not because you've lost your edge. It's because you're walking in weight. You're not like the rest. You've been set apart. You've been chosen to carry something sacred. And with glory comes cost. The weight of calling is not light. That's why you've been feeling the pressure. That's why your life has had battles others didn't have to face. The warfare wasn't random. It was proportional to what you carry. The enemy doesn't fight empty vessels. He fights carriers of glory. It is written in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. You are a jar of clay, fragile on the outside, but housing something eternal within. That treasure, it's not talent, it's not personality, it's glory. The very presence of God residing in someone who has been through fire, rejection, betrayal, delay, and yet still chooses to say yes. You've been entrusted with light that exposes darkness, and your presence alone makes things uncomfortable, not because you're arrogant, but because your spirit carries truth, and truth always confronts what's false. Some people walked away from you not because you did something wrong, but because your anointing made their compromise too loud to ignore. And that's okay. Let them go. Your job isn't to shrink to be digestible. Your job is to carry glory fully, freely, and without apology. The time for hiding is over. The days of playing small to fit in with comfort zones are behind you. God did not anoint you for invisibility. He anointed you to shine, and not with self-made brilliance, but with the light of heaven itself. When you walk into the room, atmospheres must shift. When you speak, lives must lean in, not because you're trying to be seen, but because you're carrying the one who sees all. This is not about a platform. This is about presence. You were marked with presence long before anyone noticed your gifts. And it is that presence, the glory of God resting upon you, that will make the difference in this next season. Don't underestimate what you carry. Don't devalue it because others don't recognize it. The weight you feel is confirmation, not condemnation. It means heaven has trusted you with something eternal. And trust is not given lightly. Your yes has created ripple effects in the spirit. Every time you chose God over convenience, every time you worshiped through pain, every time you sowed a seed in obedience, every time you spoke life instead of cursing your situation, all of it mattered. All of it marked you. And now, you carry glory. And this glory isn't just for you, it's for those watching you. For the family that didn't understand your transformation. For the co-workers who noticed your peace. For the friends who secretly envy your consistency. You are showing them what it means to be marked by God. Now, here's what I want you to do. Own it. Don't heed your light. Don't downplay your anointing. Don't run from the responsibility. You were born for this. And when you rise, others rise with you. So, if you feel this word has been confirmation, if something in you has been crying for language to describe this season, this is it. Comment, I choose my crown. Let that be your declaration. No more shrinking. No more fear. No more pretending not to see what God has been showing you. You are royalty, not because of your performance, but because of your position in Christ. And it's time you wore that truth boldly. Then, like this word, because when you do, it spreads further, and someone else carrying glory in silence might see it and finally feel seen. Share it, not for popularity, but for purpose. This is not a motivational message, it's a movement, a stirring of chosen ones being called out of shadows into assignment. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because glory doesn't rest on a one-time word. It flows in waves. And this space, it's a stream of continual clarity, covering, and fire for those who dare to carry what others can't. You are not ordinary. You are not common. You are not optional. You are chosen. You are marked. You carry glory. You were seen all along. Even when the silence felt suffocating, even when your prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling, even when you served, gave, poured out, and it looked like no one noticed, God saw everything. Not one sacrifice was missed. Not one act of obedience went unseen. Not a single tear fell to the ground without being collected by heaven. In a world that values noise, likes, visibility, and applause, your hidden season may have felt like failure, but it wasn't. It was intimacy. God doesn't reveal what He hasn't refined, and the refinement always happens in the secret place. You were being shaped in the silence, not shamed by it. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. You didn't imagine the call on your life. That burning inside of you was real. The moments when you knew there was more, the restless ache in your spirit, that was heaven's whisper. And even when you second-guessed it, God never did. He never stopped believing in what He placed inside of you. The delay, strategic. The silence, intentional. The wilderness, transformational. God saw you when you worshipped with no music, no audience, and no promise in sight. When you forgave people who never apologized, when you sowed seeds while living in lack, when you loved others while feeling empty yourself, that is the kind of obedience that marks someone for destiny. It is written in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 4, "Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you openly." That's not a suggestion. It's a promise. And God is not a man that He should lie. His memory is perfect. His timing is precise. His reward is not always immediate, but it is certain. You didn't do it in vain. The fasting, the praying, the waiting, the refining, the discipline, the turning away from shortcuts. It all counted. It all mattered. It all built something in you that can never be taken away. You see, public rewards are not for validation. They are for visibility of God's faithfulness. When God begins to open doors, release provision, align divine relationships, and elevate your influence, it won't be to exalt you, it will be to expose His goodness. People will see what you carry and glorify the one who gave it. There are rewards coming that match the weight of what you endured, and they will come not as a surprise, but as confirmation. God didn't forget. He didn't overlook you. He simply stored up what belonged to you until your character could hold it without it crushing you. Because what's ahead isn't just breakthrough, it's birthing. You were being prepared for rooms your name hasn't even been mentioned in yet, for assignments that will stretch your faith, for partnerships that will multiply your reach, and for miracles that will redefine your understanding of possible. The silence wasn't a punishment, it was a signal that something sacred was happening in the unseen. God saw how you stayed. When others left, you remained. When it would have been easier to blend in, you chose to stand apart. When your heart was breaking, you still showed up. That kind of consistency is rare. It doesn't come from hype. It comes from conviction. And conviction is the signature of the called. Some of the people who walked away from you couldn't understand the depth of what you carry. They weren't assigned to see it. But God never stopped seeing, never stopped refining, never stopped preparing the moment where what was hidden would be brought into the light. And that moment is near, not to boast, not to prove a point, but to fulfill a promise. The promise is, He whispered when you were at your lowest, the words that carried you when you had nothing left, the visions you kept tucked away in journals, the dreams that made you weep because they felt too big for someone like you. He saw it all, and He's bringing it forward. This is your reminder. Nothing done in obedience goes unnoticed in the kingdom. You may have walked through fire, but you're coming out gold. You may have walked through loss, but you're stepping into restoration. You may have felt invisible, but you are about to become undeniable. Not because you're perfect, but because you were faithful, quietly, consistently, relentlessly faithful. You were seen, you were known, you were marked, and now you will be rewarded. Now, step forward, not later, not when it feels safe, not when everything makes perfect sense. Now, you've heard the call, you've felt the shift, you've walked through the fire, wrestled through the silence, waited through the storm, and now it's time to move. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey when hesitation must bow to obedience. This is that moment for you. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need every detail outlined. God never promised clarity before motion. He promised presence along the way. And His presence is enough. You've already been prepared, not through comfort, but through crushing, not through popularity, but through pressure, not through applause, but through obedience. What others call qualifications, God calls faithfulness. And you've proven yourself faithful through the unknown, the delay, the rejection, the refining. You didn't just survive the wilderness, you learned how to listen in it. And now, heaven is saying, step forward, into purpose, into alignment, into the doors you thought were closed for good. The way is opening not because you forced it, but because you waited, not passively, but prophetically. You stood still in the right posture. And now, movement is being commanded from above. This isn't about hype. It's about assignment. You've been called for such a time as this. Not to impress, but to impact. Not to perform, but to transform. You've been carrying a word, a fire, a sound that this generation needs. And the world will not change through those who wait for perfect conditions. It will change through those who obey in imperfect ones. You don't need to feel ready. You need to trust the one who is. God doesn't send the equipped. He equips the sent. And you've been sent, marked, empowered, backed by the authority of heaven. You're not moving alone. You're moving with angels, with grace, with favor going ahead of you and behind you. The Word of God declares in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Lana. This is not a suggestion, it's a command. Courage is not a feeling, it's a decision. a spiritual posture, a declaration that says, I may feel the fear, but I won't obey it. You've obeyed fear for too long. You've listened to doubt for too long. You've allowed delay to become your identity. But no more. This is the moment where obedience steps forward and everything begins to change. You don't need to bring perfection into the next chapter. You just need to bring your yes. God knows exactly what you're lacking, and He's already made provision for it. He doesn't need your resume. He needs your surrender, your willingness to go where others won't, your courage to speak when others are silent, your commitment to live in alignment when others drift into compromise. And yes, it might be scary. The next step often is. But fear is not your master. Faith is. You don't need the full map, just the next instruction. And here it is. Step forward. Out of the old patterns, out of the fear that's held you hostage, out of the identity built on survival. Step forward into calling, into restoration, into the fullness of everything God has been shaping behind the scenes. Because what you're stepping into now isn't just about destiny, it's about dominion. You're not walking into a season, you're walking into a kingdom assignment. And the weight of it won't crush you, it will confirm you. It will prove that what was hidden in the secret place wasn't just a season of pain, it was a womb of purpose. You were born for this, created for this, designed for this exact moment in history, not as a spectator, but as a participant in heaven's agenda. You are not the backup plan. You are the chosen one, and your steps, every single one of them, are being ordered by the Lord. So rise, walk boldly, speak clearly, move with fire. You are not the same person who entered the wilderness. You are the one who walked through it and came out carrying power. You've waited long enough. You've prayed long enough. You've fasted, cried, questioned, repented, grown. And now, all that remains is movement, faith in motion, glory revealed, purpose ignited. The next chapter is not waiting on heaven. Heaven is waiting on you. So go. This is your time. This is your release. Step forward, unchained, unshaken, undaunted. You were born for this, beloved chosen one. If this word found you, if it stirred something deep in your spirit, don't let it stop here. You've just walked through 17 sections of divine alignment, prophetic truth, and spiritual activation. This wasn't just content. This was confirmation, a blueprint from heaven, piece by piece, word by word, calling you deeper, higher, forward. You didn't finish this by accident. You were meant to make it here. Every section was a seed. And now that it's been planted, it's time to water it with reflection, with prayer, and with action. If something in these words unlocked a truth you had buried, if you wept silently because someone finally spoke to your secret pain, if you finally saw your worth, your strength, your calling, let it be known. Comment below. Tell us which section wrecked you, which word confirmed you, which truth felt like it had your name on it. This space is not just a message, it's a movement, a gathering of chosen ones who are done playing small, done hiding, done bowing to fear. And your voice matters here. Like this message, not for vanity, but for visibility. Every click makes it more likely someone else will find what you just found. Share it. Send it to one person who needs to remember they're not forgotten. Subscribe, because this is not the end. There are more words to come, more fire to release, more revelation waiting on the other side of your next yes. You are chosen. You are rising. You are stepping forward. And this is just the beginning.